here. We're calling it Groundhog Day. And if you guys remember the Groundhog Day movie, it's just a guy who keeps reliving his day over and over and over. It's a great movie. So what we're going to do here with Groundhog Day is revisit some predictions Kyle and I made as individuals. And I've got a few that we did together that we were either very wrong on or right on. Really, just we either hit it on the head or we were so far out to lunch that, we just were morons. So, how do we want to do this, Kyle? What did you want to start? Because I feel like you've got the most.
I got a couple. So here, I'll start with this.
He's gonna fucking burn my ass. Watch.
No, I'm not. I'm gonna start off with one that we both agreed on, and it is the Carolina Panthers and Baker Mayfield.
Might make a run for second in the division. I think the Bucs have it.
I hope they do. I want Baker to take me to the playoffs.
Yeah, I want Baker to do well. And I think this is just well-wishing, kind of like with the Bears, with Baker. But I would really like to see him get in the wild card and have the fucking Browns just completely miss the playoffs.
I can just see it right now, though. Like, it's a Sunday 1 o'clock game, and they're, like, down 10-24.
Yeah.
And Baker's, like, on the sideline, like, looking at
his iPad, and you just flip the TV off and go, yeah, the Panthers.
If you haven't seen it, go on YouTube because Kyle put that short up, and it is hilarious.
Yeah, there was a moment where they're down 26-10 and Baker staring at his iPad. And it was definitely a game that you would have flipped the channel on. So we were right about Baker, but we were honest about that when we said we want Baker to go to you said it the best. You said I think it's like the Bears thing, it's like wishful thinking. And we wanted Baker to really rub it into the face. He didn't do it as a Panther. What we couldn't have predicted is that he would have had a moment later to do it with the Rams.
And what a moment that was, though, right? Like, was like,
which one? When he beat the Broncos on Christmas by 50? Or
that's right. No, I was referring more to the Thursday night football game, the comeback, where he practiced with the team maybe like for practice and a half, came into that game on Thursday night and was able to march them down the field with a really great pass to, who was it? Who's the receiver that caught it? God, I can't remember.
Van
Jefferson. That's who it was on the game-winning drive. So yeah, I mean, look, and it's true. Kyle was right. We were just like, yeah, we're gonna flip through and see the Panthers and Baker Mayfield just being sad, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm unfortunate on that one.
All right, so I'm gonna start off one with Kyle. Kyle said that was absolutely correct. Unfortunately, I don't have any like screen recordings of these, just because I was kind of taking notes. But Kyle, and this was a twofer pretty much that he got right. Not only did Kyle predict that the Patriots are going to come third in the division in the AFC East, but he also predicted their record. He said that the Patriots are going to go 8-9, and this was 2 weeks before the start of the season. And the Patriots, what did the Patriots end up doing? They came third in the division, and their record was 8-9. So let's give it up for Kyle on that prediction.
We're not doing that.
Oh, don't worry, I'm gonna get some wrong ones on you.
Oh yeah.
I gotta give you your flowers now. So Kyle, you go ahead.
Okay, here we go. Let's see what this one is. I got a title.
Like, it's a Sunday 1 o'clock.
Oh yeah, we did that one already.
Losing record.
I like
Daniel Jones is over. His career's over.
Well, if anybody could turn it around, the guy that turned Josh Allen into Josh Allen is now their head coach. Dable. So we'll see what he can do because you got to remember, they've had the worst offensive line in the NFL for like all of Daniel Jones. Like, it's hard to evaluate a quarterback when he doesn't have time to throw the ball. And
didn't Patrick Mahomes have like a terrible offensive line for a while?
I mean, it wasn't.
We kind of go on the side tangent there, but there's us talking about Daniel Jones and talking about the potential that Dable would have been able to turn around this guy, a guy that turned around Josh Allen's career. And I think he did, right? What did you say? Or do you still believe kind of what you said in the beginning? This is his last year as a starter.
So, man, it's tough. What I would say is I think he has another year in New York. I think he has another year in New York as a starter. Did he turn it around? He had a really good season as like a pseudo quarterback, mostly rushing the ball, mostly running it, using his legs. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that because that's what really Justin Fields was all last year, right? Like, was he pretty decent at throwing the ball? Absolutely. He showed a lot of flashes, but I mean, he was getting a lot of shit done with his legs. And that's kind of what mattered. That's what made him really introduced to the league and made him really made the Bears games actually watchable. So Daniel Jones, I think, has earned himself another year as a starter in New York. I don't know what his contract status is after this season. But either way, I think he's earned himself another starting job. With the offensive line thing, that is very, very good point. And then Dable was able to use his tools that Jones had. And like you said, turned it around, because what did the Giants do? The Giants ended up being a pretty good team, had a really good record. They stumbled in the middle of the season, but they were still able to make the playoffs and such. So good prediction for Kyle on that one. And I didn't really believe it at the time either. But I don't think it has fully become a franchise quarterback. Yeah. But I think you hit it on the head with, like, if anybody's going to do it, it's Dable. And that's what Dable did this year.
He definitely did a solid job. And then I feel like this year will be like, as long as he's improving, then they're not going to turn away from him. Like, why start all over? So, and I know we have a couple, I think, we have a couple fans of Daniel Jones, and at least on our page that I've noticed have been like pretty high on Daniel Jones. So we'll see what he does next year. But yeah,
sure.
You're right. He's got to earn it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just real quick, Jen, just saying this is an awesome segment. Yeah, this really is, because we just kind of give each other shit for things we've said. And Kyle, don't worry, Kyle's got a couple in the chamber right now that he's gonna put to my fucking noggin.
No.
I think it's fun though. Like it's funny to kind of like go back, because I was listening to our entire division predictions episode, and I was just like, God, we either sound really smart or we sound really dumb, obviously, but this was prior to the entire season. So the next one I'll go with, and this is actually one on me that I did really well, so good for me.
Nice. Steelers?
Is Steelers won. You're correct. They had 9 wins, so it's kind of like winning the division. No, I'm just kidding. I predicted that the Chiefs would have 28 points per game. They ended the season 28.7 points per game throughout the entire regular season. So give it up for me. Give it up for me.
This hurts.
This hurts. And that was when we had a discussion too about defenses and offenses. Because you said that if a defense, you said something about a defense and an offense. You're like, well, who has the best offense? And I'm like, yeah, probably the Chiefs between the Broncos. And you're like, well, who has the best defense? And I'm like, well, the Broncos will probably have the better defense. And you're like, but don't you think that a defense giving up the least amount of points is going to be the better overall team than a team with a better offense?
We could have been if we scored more than, we're the worst team offensively.
And that's what I mean, like, because there are seasons like this. And again, it's nothing that you can predict, but the Broncos demonstrated that perfectly, is that you can give up very, very little points. And I think they gave up 16. They only gave up 21 points per game, something like that.
It's super inflated from that 50-point Christmas game. But
that
was like, we were like number 1, and then that happened, and it was like dropped to 21. It was like, okay.
Yeah. And then it dropped to number 12 overall. But that's not to say, and that's just one singular stat, which is points per game. That's not taking into consideration the entire defense. But it made a difference in that argument where it's like, actually, this can happen, right? Where the defense is so good, but the offense plays so poorly that it just, like, the overall team isn't very good. But I predicted the Chiefs for 28 points per game.
Yeah, and you predicted them to be the number 1 team in the AFC West, which came true.
Did I say AFC West?
Yeah.
Or yeah, AFC West. I think you meant AFC. Sorry.
Excuse me. Yeah, because you were like Patrick Mahomes is still Patrick Mahomes, and you were right on about all that.
Yeah, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give myself one that really makes me look stupid. Is that I said the Chargers would be dead last in the AFC West this year.
Oh,
so that one was a bad pick. They were second. They made the wild card. So Race, if you're listening, I apologize. The Chargers are good. Kyle, what you got next?
You froze for a second. Sorry.
Oh,
here we go. I was trying to get it ready.
Let's go.
They're not gonna just lose every
one of these wins. They're gonna lose. A few of these wins they're gonna lose.
I don't think they're gonna lose to the Jets here.
Here, hold on.
And then
no.
Well, that's what I got. So
oh, here it is.
The Lions, absolutely.
Right here.
Minnesota's got a good home field advantage.
Yeah,
it's right.
I know what this one is.
Bears week 5 at Chicago. Yeah. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They're in Minnesota.
Mother effer. Sorry.
Schedule,
here it is.
Talked about this,
but their schedule is so not.
This is what
this is Rick on the Bears.
Get closer to week 1. The
hope
has arrived.
What do you want me to do? You want me not to be hopeful for the Bears?
I want you to be honest.
I am honest,
dude. I looked,
I looked at their schedule yesterday or the other day. It's pretty.
So Rick had the Bears going. What was it? 11
and 6.
11 and 6. Give it up to Rick.
I was kind of right.
He was like all offseason. It's like it's a rebuilding year. As long as Justin Fields gets better, it was like yeah. And then the day of, he comes on. He's like, yeah, I was talking to Jack, his buddy in Chicago, and he's like, Bears are going 11 and 6.
Oh my god.
I tried to plead with him. I tried to figure out what happened. And then I remembered that I do this every year. It was like, I thought Drew Lock, he finished one of the years that he took over and finished 4-1. We got Melvin Gordon. There was all this hype, and I was like, we're going to go to the, playoffs. And what happened? Drew Lock's not the guy. I know what you went through, but it's too funny not to replay it. You're 12
Absolutely.
12 and 6 prediction. What do you 12 and 5, 11 and 6. What do you think about it now? Is it funny?
So it's hilarious, but to be fair, the Commanders, that was a tough game. That was a tough Thursday night game. That was
awful.
Disgusting. It was a terrible game. The Bears could have won that several times, but they just sucked. Also, they got rid of Roquan Smith, which was a huge part of the defense. And other than that, they would have been a fucking offensive powerhouse, probably in the Super Bowl right now.
I love you.
Other than that, if those two things didn't happen, we would be in the Super Bowl. No, it's hilarious, dude. The Giants were good. They're a lot. Obviously, again, the rebuilding season thing was huge for the Bears.
Yeah,
and the fact that like I said 11 wins, it's just so funny. But hey,
you got your guy.
We got our guy. That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
Here's the one I was trying to. Right here.
Yeah.
I want you to be honest.
Hold on. So it's me in the middle of a conversation with you, talking about the Minnesota Vikings.
I think I did have that as a loss. Week 2, Green Bay loss. I already got them losing twice.
So this is the Bears. He goes through all of the Bears games, and then he like realizes as he's doing it, he's like, "Yeah, I got them losing too." But then after he loses to the Packers twice, they like win all of their games. You're like, "That's a win. That's a win. That's a win. That's a win."
That's right.
And then I have my comments on this division. Right here.
No, the Green Bay Packers are getting first. Aaron Rodgers is going to Aaron Rodgers. He is. You can't look. Kirk Cousins had a great year last year. Don't get me wrong, and he has Justin Jefferson, and you've got Dalvin Cook. Vikings are a rough bet, in my opinion. They are a rough.
I'm not
bet
gonna hold
win.
it against you.
Oh, why not? Come on.
Because
Oh, your body?
I
Oh,
know
okay.
what it's. I know what it's like when you get close to the season and you're like.
And we've done this.
Vikings, number 1 in the NFC North, was the
Yeah.
preseason prediction. Came true.
Yep,
And
I got that right.
there was just that was one that I nailed. And obviously, I think you had what you were Packers number 1, and you weren't letting go of that because of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
Rightfully so, right? We've never seen Aaron Rodgers not finish number 1, but that was definitely one that was funny because we were still on the Bears thing. And then while you're on this Bears tangent, I tell
Yeah.
you that I have the Vikings finishing number 1, and
Yeah.
I felt like you were about to leave the studio.
Oh man, well, how wrong I was for that one. Kirk Cousins had another stellar season, but they also finished with a negative point differential as like a 13-4 team, which is ridiculous.
That is
Still a rough
crazy.
bet because and this is going to be funny because at the end of this episode, we actually gave our Super Bowl predictions. Kyle had the Vikings in the Super Bowl or the Rams. He said the Rams or the Vikings were going to the Super Bowl. And I said the Bills and the Rams were going to the Super Bowl. Nowhere near what any of us predicted. So we were both wrong on that Super Bowl
The
prediction.
Rams surprised a lot of people, and I think the mainstream media indoctrinated me because I heard it so many times that the Rams are going to the Super Bowl. It's hard to find originality, but I did find some originality in this one.
Sleep on Jalen Hurts. I don't know what it is
Yeah.
about him.
But I don't think they've got enough to beat the Cowboys and Dak Prescott. Mike McCarthy's an idiot. Don't get me wrong. He's a
Yes,
fucking
he
idiot.
is.
And the Cowboys are going to cowboy
I'll
just
take
like the
I'll
Chargers.
take Cowboys number 2 over Commanders. I'll meet in the middle. But
Okay.
there's no way in hell that the Eagles aren't winning this division.
Oh,
It
dude.
was close.
They are so
It was close.
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't
Jer-
know. I don't trust
We're
the
here. I'm
Eagles.
so happy we're here.
I don't
Well,
trust
yes.
the Eagles. I've never trusted the Eagles ever.
Well, do it. Man.
Do it. They made the playoffs last year and they got better.
So before that, real quick, because it was so funny. Kyle had the Commanders in second above the Cowboys, and I was like, "There's no fucking way." And then that's when he said he changed it. I was about to go in on him too on that pick,
Yeah.
and then he's like, "Okay, I'll meet you in the middle." Commanders third, Broncos second, or Cowboys second. I was like, "Oh, thank God!" But yes, that one was fucking hilarious because I'm like, I don't think Jalen Hurts makes the next step, and then throughout the entire regular season, you and I are like, dude, MVP candidate. He took the next step. He's a leader.
That is the out of everything that we did on the entire podcast, that is the one I'm most proud of. Because that was not like if the Rams were in the Super Bowl, right? We were all like Rams, or even if Buffalo made it, it would have been like, yeah. But
Yeah.
I feel like that one was like that one and the Vikings one. And the coolest one, I would say, is that you and I discussed the AFC AFC North. And we got into it a little bit about the Bengals.
Yeah.
Fluke, was it real?
Yeah.
By the way, I predicted the Broncos to win the AFC West. So let's just put that out there. Okay. And I'm not trying to make all these like you were wrong moments. I'm
Yeah,
really
yeah.
not. But they're the ones that are the funnest to talk about.
They are.
me.
They are.
But we talked about the Bengals, and I was like, oh, the Bengals are going to get better because, people sleep on the Bengals because they were bad for all of our lifetime. And then you start talking about, what about the team? What about the Panthers? What happened the year after the Panthers made it? So you start bringing up some fluke examples, but
Yeah.
they did lose Luke Kuechly. This is one of those, you ever get mad at somebody and you're taking a shower and you're like, all the comebacks you should have said.
Yeah.
That was me listening to this podcast. I was like, why didn't I
Same.
mention Luke Kuechly? Why didn't I mention?
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
So the Bengals, they were right, but that wasn't the cool part. The cool part was that I predicted the wins and losses for all 4 teams.
Mm-hmm.
And the most I was off was for 2 teams. I was within 2 games, and I nailed the Cleveland Browns record to the T at 7 wins. So that was like the closest division, I think, of perfection for
Yeah.
all of it. Because I didn't have the Giants making the playoffs, and the Broncos I was way off. And no, the NFC North I was pretty damn good on too. I had the Bears
Yeah.
finishing last, Detroit.
Yeah.
I even said Detroit's going to play Green Bay in a game late in the season. That's going to
And
be
it's gonna
really
matter.
important. It's going to matter for that
Yeah.
number 2 spot. And that happened, and the Vikings won the conference. So those are like the 2 big highlights. But yeah, the Broncos making the Super Bowl or going deep in the playoffs, that was very, very bad of me. But what do you think about the AFC North?
The AFC North was probably my boldest take, I will say.
Oh, the Steelers! I forgot.
Steelers was
Laughed at him in the chat. He picked the Steelers to win
And
the
here's-
division.
Here's the thing. This season was absolutely insane that any of our predictions could have absolutely happened. Because as you look back on this season, you're like, wow, this is actually crazy. Like all the things, like so many things went right. The Falcons were randomly good for a period there. The Bucks were nowhere near NFC South champions at like week 12 or week 13. We're like, wow, the Bucks kind of suck here.
Yeah.
The Steelers eventually went from Mitch to Kenny Pickett and were looking kind of decent. And not only that, they looked like garbage towards the beginning of the season and still finished with a winning record under Mike Tomlin. So all these things culminating, the Rams not winning the West, the 49ers being the top team, the Seattle Seahawks being the number 2 in the West, Cardinals being 3rd and firing Kingsbury at the end of the season. Like all this shit during the 2022 season was ridiculous. And the one thing I absolutely regret was Kyle said it. If the Bears at week 6 are 3-3, I will give you a blowjob. They were 2-4. They were
Almost.
2-4 by week 6. I could have gotten a blowjob from Kyle.
If they go 3-3 by week 6, I will personally give you a blowjob.
He said,
And I
will
hope it happens.
And they lost to the Washington Commanders week 6 in that garbage fucking Thursday night game.
It reminds me.
This close. I would have recorded it, put it on Pornhub for content. We would have done so many viewers. Oh,
You
my
just
God.
smacking me. How many games did the Bears win? 3-3.
That's right, bitch.
It reminds me of 8 Crazy Nights when he has the jockstrap in his mouth. He's like, why are you eating that?
We would have been right here in my office, Kyle, in a full Bears uniform, sucking me off, bro. That would have been the
Can I
best
wear the
content.
helmet?
Take it, bitch. No, those were hilarious. We also had the Colts winning the AFC South, which we just talked about. I had Matt Ryan's career being revived with the Colts, so that was ridiculous. You
Not
also
the
had the
only one,
Viking.
though. You weren't by yourself with that take.
No, I think you disagreed, but you're like, maybe, but you didn't necessarily say it with me. I don't
it
think a
was
lot
like
of
the
people would have
Flacco
disagreed.
thing.
And
Yeah.
that's what you mentioned, yeah.
Yeah, and I would have agreed if it didn't already happen to me personally. Why
Mhm.
did that rhyme? Because when Joe Flacco came over from the Ravens, it was like everyone freaked out. And then when the Matt Ryan thing happened, I was like, this seems oddly familiar.
Yeah.
And I know how this story ends. And I feel like that's the only player, the Matt Ryan was the only player that honestly like resembled the Joe Flacco thing for me. But I wasn't totally disagreeing with you. I was just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know,
it seems
man.
rough. It seems rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one we got wrong. The Giants being last in the division, we got wrong. And then I had what else? Steelers winning the North. Obviously, that was correct. You had the Vikings beating the Eagles in week 2. That was a blowout. Blowout.
You know what's weird is that I had the Eagles winning a lot of games. It said 14 games. And then I kind of contradicted myself because I was like, well, I think the Detroit Lions are going to beat the Eagles week 1. It's going to be a huge upset. And what was it, 48-45 or something insane like that?
Yeah.
And then week 2, I was like, well, I got stuck between my picks. You're like, yeah, you think the Vikings are good? We're like, yeah, they'll beat the Eagles. And it's like, what am I doing? Because I have the Eagles being really good. So instead of just being like, hey, I got both these teams being good, but I don't know who's going to win, I was like trying to be, super confident, and I screwed myself because I got stuck, between.
It was so tough, dude, because like so many things happened during the offseason, the draft, all that, where we were just like, damn, these teams can be good, but who's going to be the better team at the end of the day, right? So it was a little difficult.
And the NFC West was by far the one where we all just like the Rams were last. The Seahawks were supposed to be the worst team, and they made the playoffs. The Niners with Brock Purdy. This is a snapshot of how the NFL is changing so much week to week. Like, you go into the offseason, you're like, look, there was some divisions where we were like, look, I don't know. Okay. The NFC West was not one of those.
No.
We were like, we know who the Cardinals are. They choked in the playoffs. They'll get it together. Kingsbury's going to, hold them together. A total dumpster fire. And then we're like, Geno Smith. We're literally laughing. We're like, Geno Smith. Could you imagine having a quarterback competition with Drew Lock and Geno Smith, and they named Geno Smith the starter? It's almost like sending out a memo to Seattle fans that we don't care what happens this year. And Geno Smith is a candidate for comeback player of the year and makes it to the playoffs. And then Brock Purdy, a name that we didn't even utter the syllables of until late in the season, is the next Tom Brady, maybe. I mean, it was just what a unpredictable sport that we love,
And I mean the biggest one too was we both had the Rams in the Super Bowl, and the Rams sucked. That was probably the biggest. Actually, no, you had the Vikings or the Rams. So we both had the Rams, but we both we both had the Bills, which that one wasn't as crazy because they did lose in the divisional round. So that one wasn't as crazy, but it's like some things you get right and some things you get completely wrong. So that's why we wanted to do this segment. We thought it was going to be so fun for you guys to hear our bullshit. And let me get to the comments here because there are some good ones. Steve saying, I think players from the Rams and Vikes are going to the Super Bowl. Pretty sure they got box room seating for it.
They're going to be in the booth.
And then Steve says, oh my God, absolutely crazy that his name is Kyle. And in South Park, Kyle makes a bet with Cartman that he'll give him a BJ. He does. And we also got Bill in the chat. Bill, welcome. He's late, but
what up, Bill? We were talking about your Giants.
We were talking about your Giants and how we were very wrong about them in the preseason. He also said, I'm assuming the Sean Payton victory lap has already occurred. Oh, it did. It absolutely did. You should have seen Kyle.
I've been back in this chair like 5 times.
Kyle is already ready to name everything Sean Payton, ready to give him a statue, ready to do this.
I did mention a statue.
So he's ready to go. But Bill, definitely catch the beginning of this episode. The first 20 to 21 or 22 minutes was about Tom Brady retiring. So if you want, you want to talk about, if you want to hear that, definitely take a listen. And then we talk about Sean Payton. But Kyle, any other Groundhog Day predictions that you want to get to before we get out of here?
That's all I got. I'm just really excited. Oh, let me ask you one more thing. You got to put the chives on top here.
Oh, chives.
Who is next year's Seattle Seahawks?
Next year's Seattle Seahawks. That's a very, very good question. Let me looky-loo here.
You got it. You're thinking comeback player of the year, a team that there's like no expectations for.
No expectations for.
They just kind of show up, and it's like, whoa, they're really good.
So you're saying a team that one has no expectations, and two will make the playoffs in a sense?
Yeah, kind of like a team that is like the laughing stock of the league, and then it's like the joke's on us.
Ooh. I'm trying to see. I'm looking through all the teams right now. You know what? I'm gonna go with the Colts. I think the Colts. This is just us in preseason. I think the Colts have a really good team. and they are the quarterback away. And I think they're going to make a trade to get themselves in the realm of either the Bears or the Cardinals, who already have a quarterback, to try to get a CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, or even a Levis. I forget his first name, Will Levis, one of these guys. I think they're going to make a move for a quarterback, throw him out in the wild to start off the season and make the playoffs, because they're going to have Jonathan Taylor back. Shaq Leonard's going to be back. But it also depends on the coach. God, that's the thing. That's the thing that's holding me back. I think it's the coach. If not the Colts, though, can I pick another one, or do you actually you go first with yours, and then if it's not mine, then I'll say mine. But I got the Colts for now. Go ahead.
All right, so whoever it is, it has to be a team that is like seriously made fun of, like the way we made fun of Seattle for going with Geno. It's got to be a quarterback that'll be a candidate for comeback player of the year.
Okay.
It's got to be a team that was predicted to be awful. This is going to sound really homer, but this is all sounding really familiar.
The Broncos.
I think Russell Wilson wins comeback player of the year. The Broncos are a wild card.
I fucking knew it. I knew it, you son of a bitch. I knew it. I fucking knew it. I knew he was going to go this way, although I didn't really know until he was talking about it. But they had so many expectations, though.
They did. But now they're the laughing stock of the league, and there will be none.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Oh, that's right, because they have to be the laughing stock of the league this offseason or this past year going into next year. Yeah, I think the Colts definitely fall in that realm, especially with the fact that Saturday was the head coach. I like the Colts.
Bryce Young will be their quarterback.
Yeah, or I mean, I think they go with one of them. Absolutely, for sure. The other one I had in mind was, and maybe it doesn't necessarily fit the criteria, but the Panthers.
That fits the criteria.
But they're not, I don't think because they put up a really good effort in the South towards the end of the season, and it really came down to a couple games and a couple of like scenarios for them.
They fired their coach mid-season. Like, no one's taking the Panthers seriously. Nobody's going to be like, watch out for the Panthers. So, like, I think it's a great pick. Like, if you, I bet if you went to DraftKings and you looked at early odds to make the playoffs, the Panthers would be like, you'd win good money on that if you thought Panthers make the playoffs. So you think Packers or the Panthers with Matt Rule or
Frank Reich.
Thank you. I don't know where that name even came from. Frank Reich.
He was the coach of the Panthers.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay, that's so weird that things are just in there.
That just happens. Yeah.
Yeah. You think Frank Reich gets the job done in Carolina? I like that. I think it's a great pick.
Yeah, and as much as I didn't like what Frank Reich did with the Colts early in the seat last year, which I think kind of led him to get fired, which a lot of us were like, Sam Ehlinger over Matt Ryan, are you sure? I think, like you said, and like Sean Payton with the Broncos, a lot of these coaches with new teams, fresh start, new team, their pick at quarterback, their pick at this, their pick at a coaching squad. I think that's a very real possibility. The Colts and the Panthers, I think, are going to be two teams next year that we laughed at this year and this entire offseason, depending on the draft. But going into next year, where we're going to be like, holy shit, where'd they come from? Like you said, the Seahawks, the 49ers to an extent, and even the Jaguars. The Jaguars were looked at pretty badly. Then they got Doug Peterson, but I don't think either of us expected you. I think you had the Jaguars last, and so did I. We both had the Jaguars dead last in the AFC South. And look what Doug Peterson was able to do with Trevor Lawrence, right? So I think the Panthers and the Colts, I'm going to go Colts over Panthers, but I think those two teams are very, very, I guess, capable of doing that next year.
Yeah, and the draft pick thing, the Texans have 11 picks in the draft, so I'm not sure what does Bill mean about do they have any picks? They not only do they have 11, but they're going to be picking the quarterback at number 2 that they want. And then next year they have 9 picks and they have 2 first overalls. So I mean, they're in good shape in the draft.
I think they're in good shape.
And I'll end it with this. I made that list of quarterbacks that are tier 1. And what did we say? We were like, look at that. There are more tier 1 quarterbacks than bad quarterbacks. Like there's a couple spots where you're like, Daniel Jones, is he the guy? There's a couple spots like that. But
Mhm.
here's what I think. I think we're about to go into unprecedented territory in the NFL where in about 5 years, every team will be good.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be, I think we're getting closer and closer, but I think the margin of how many bad teams there are, I think it's going to get really small. And I think we're getting closer to an NFL league that no matter who you play, it's already said any given Sunday. It's already said
Yeah.
any given Sunday, but I do think it's going to ring more true because you're going to have teams about 31 out of 32, maybe 30 out of 32 that are really good. So it's going to get really interesting, I think.
That would be an NFL fan's dream. That would be our dream right there, to just see great competitive football week in, week out.